Millions of Americans travel abroad every year, yet not every place welcomes them with open arms. In fact, an estimated 95 million Americans traveled internationally in 2023. This trend of wanderlust is only expected to grow, with more and more people looking to escape and explore the world. But here's the catch: some countries don't exactly love this influx of American visitors. Let's explore why some parts of the world might not be rolling out the red carpet. 10. Myanmar. Myanmar, formerly known as Burma under British rule, possesses a rich and complex history that continues to impact travelers today. In the late 1940s, a brief glimmer of democracy offered hope for the future. However, military intervention and civil war have crippled progress and isolated the region internationally. Ongoing conflicts and ethnic divisions make travel difficult and dangerous for both residents and visitors. The process of entering Myanmar has undergone significant changes. While most travelers still require a visa beforehand, the recent introduction of an e-visa system simplifies the application process. However, ongoing conflicts have forced the closure of some border crossings, adding complexity to entry. It's important to note that designated no-go zones and military checkpoints, despite the ongoing conflict, are intended to ensure travelers' safety. Travel in Myanmar presents unique challenges compared to neighboring Southeast Asian countries, but it remains possible. A significant hurdle for travelers in Myanmar is the limited access to quality medical care. Accredited medical facilities for emergencies are primarily concentrated in Yangon. This scarcity, particularly in rural areas, presents a risk for travelers. This concern, coupled with the US Department of State's warnings regarding the risk of wrongful detention by the military regime, underscores the complexities of traveling amidst civil unrest and armed conflict. The Burmese government maintains strict control over travel, requiring passports and visas for all visitors. The inconsistency in visa on-arrival eligibility and the need for prior approval for tourist visas add layers of complexity to planning a visit to Myanmar. Despite these hurdles, Myanmar's captivating history and cultural heritage continue to attract intrepid travelers willing to navigate the complexities of a nation in transition. 9. Lebanon. Lebanon, with its rich history, diverse culture, and breathtaking landscapes, might seem like an ideal travel destination. Yet, Americans planning to visit Lebanon may find themselves navigating a complex web of historical and political tensions that influence their reception. This complexity is rooted not just in Lebanon's own turbulent history but also in the broader geopolitical dynamics of the Middle East, where American foreign policies have often had profound impacts. At the heart of the challenges faced by American visitors is Lebanon's intricate political landscape, marked by its history of civil conflict and its position in the ongoing strife across the Middle East. Hezbollah's significant influence in southern Lebanon, along with its ongoing conflict with Israel, creates sensitive areas where Americans, often seen through the prism of U.S. foreign policies, might be unwelcome or viewed with suspicion. This history, combined with the current economic crisis exacerbated by political instability and external factors such as the Syrian conflict, has fostered a climate of skepticism and caution towards foreigners, particularly Americans, whose government is often associated with these turbulent chapters of Lebanese history. However, it's crucial to note that the Lebanese population is renowned for its hospitality and warmth towards foreigners, including Americans. The nuanced reality is that while there may be pockets of unwelcome sentiment rooted in political and historical grievances, many Lebanese are eager to differentiate between government actions and individual travelers. Visitors are encouraged to approach their travels with sensitivity and awareness of the local context, seeking to understand Lebanon's rich cultural tapestry and complex history. Despite geopolitical and historical hurdles, Americans can foster cultural exchange in Lebanon through mutual respect. Careful navigation, respect for local customs, and political neutrality will allow travelers to positively contribute to Lebanon's tourism while appreciating its beauty and intricacies. 8. Russia. The frosty winds of geopolitical tensions loom large between Russia and the United States, heavily impacting personal interactions and travel experiences. Deep-rooted political and military rivalries, including disagreements over global security, cyber conflicts, and regional interests, lie at the core of this chill. These high-level disputes influence public perception and can make American visitors feel unwelcome in Russia. Economic sanctions imposed by the US have squeezed Russia's economy, aiming to curb policies deemed aggressive. These sanctions impact daily lives, creating a narrative that may cast Americans in a negative light and foster suspicion towards US nationals. Despite these challenges, Russia boasts a rich culture and warm people. From Moscow's ballet stages to St. Petersburg's literary haunts, the country offers a storied history, breathtaking landscapes, and deep-rooted cultural heritage. Many Russians are curious and hospitable, eager to share their traditions and perspectives. However, the political narrative can overshadow these individual interactions, creating a barrier for US citizens to navigate. Sensitivity and awareness are key for American visitors. Understanding the history of US-Russia relations, respecting local customs and viewpoints, and approaching interactions with openness can bridge divides. While the political climate may suggest a cold reception, many Americans find warmth in genuine connections with Russian people. Beneath the frost of international politics lies the potential for mutual respect and understanding. 7. South Sudan. South Sudan, the world's youngest country, also holds the dubious distinction of being one of the least visited. A history marked by civil war, genocide, corruption, and poverty creates a complex reality for potential tourists. The infrastructure for tourism is simply not there yet. Venturing into South Sudan requires a local guide, a knowledgeable and trustworthy one. They'll be crucial for securing visas, navigating checkpoints, and ensuring your safety. Surprisingly, obtaining a visa is relatively straightforward online, with a letter from your guide. Be warned, photography is a sensitive subject. The government is wary of foreigners posing as journalists or spies. Costly permits are mandatory for cameras. Taking photos without a permit, especially in Juba, the capital, can lead to serious trouble, even confiscation of your camera or imprisonment. South Sudan faces ongoing armed conflict, making it a dangerous destination. Weapons are readily available, and cattle raids often turn violent. The U.S. Department of State strongly advises against travel due to the high risk of crime, kidnapping, and armed conflict. Journalism without proper authorization is illegal and incredibly dangerous. Journalists have faced harassment and violence while covering the conflict. Extreme caution is essential for all travelers. Traveling in convoys and avoiding border areas is highly recommended. Be prepared for unexpected changes and embrace flexibility. South Sudan demands an open mind and a willingness to adapt. Despite the challenges, South Sudan boasts breathtaking scenery, rich culture, and resilient people. However, prioritizing safety and acknowledging the significant complexities is paramount for any traveler considering this destination. 6. Iraq. Iraq, the cradle of civilization, whispers secrets older than time itself. For American visitors, unearthing these treasures promises an adventure unlike any other. Unlike Egypt, information here isn't readily available. You'll need a guide to unlock the stories etched in these ancient stones. The shadow of the US invasion 2 decades ago still hangs heavy over the country, deeply affecting its people and their perception of Americans. This complex history contributes to a cautious reception of American visitors. Certain areas, especially near the borders, are off-limits due to dangers like landmines and airstrikes. Not exactly a relaxing vacation. Even major cities like Baghdad grapple with the lingering shadow of the past. The threat of violence remains a constant concern. Limited support for Americans only adds to the stress. Getting a visa? It's a process, and not for the faint of heart. Expect lots of paperwork and limited travel options. Oh, and cash is king, forget those fancy credit cards. The journey itself presents logistical hurdles. Carrying cash for unreliable ATMs and navigating constant security checkpoints are just a few. For women traveling solo, cultural norms add another layer of complexity. Despite these challenges, Iraq offers a wealth of historical and cultural experiences. However, American visitors must navigate a complex landscape shaped by historical tensions, security concerns, and logistical challenges to uncover the treasures of this ancient land. 5. Somalia. The US and Somalia have a complex history. US military intervention in the 1990s aimed to help during the Civil War, but relations became strained. The US Embassy closed in 1991. This history shapes a cautious approach to travel today. Ongoing security issues necessitate travel restrictions. Terrorist groups and a lack of law and order pose major risks. US advisories warn of dangers and limited US support due to no embassy. For those still considering travel, Somalia has specific entry requirements, including the necessity of a passport and visa. Regions like Somaliland and Puntland issue their own visas and have particular stipulations for travelers. However, the overall lack of infrastructure and the presence of illegal roadblocks make travel within Somalia hazardous. The US government issues travel advisories cautioning Americans against travel to Somalia due to risks of terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and piracy. The advisory reflects the government's limited capacity to provide emergency services to US citizens in Somalia, including the lack of a permanent consular presence. Without a consular presence, providing routine or emergency services is challenging, further emphasizing the advisories against travel. This limitation is a key factor in the travel restrictions, as the safety and security of American citizens cannot be adequately ensured. While the Somali people's hospitality might contradict this perception, the security risks are undeniable. 4. Iran. Traveling to Iran presents a unique set of challenges and considerations, particularly for US citizens. Firstly, the US government advises against travel to Iran due to risks of terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and the arbitrary arrest and detention of US citizens. Despite these warnings, it's crucial to understand the visa and travel rules if you decide to visit. US citizens must travel with a private guide or group tour, approved in advance by the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This requirement ensures a guided itinerary, be it part of a group or a tailor-made individual tour, allowing for cultural immersion within set parameters. Dispelling myths about travel to Iran, it's important to note that US citizens can legally visit Iran as tourists, with roughly 1,000 to 1,500 Americans doing so each year. While sanctions exist, there are no direct restrictions on tourist visits. However, all American tourists must have a guide authorized to support American travelers, aware of Iran's regulations. This doesn't significantly restrict travelers' freedom within the country. Travelers can still explore local bazaars, enjoy street food, and engage with locals, enhancing their travel experience. Obtaining an Iranian tourist visa is a two-step process: securing a travel authorization number from the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and then obtaining the actual visa from an Iranian consulate. The process, facilitated by tour companies, requires patience, particularly for the authorization number, which can take 30 to 40 business days. While planning your trip, keep in mind a few things about Iran. Yukas, the dress code requiring women to wear headscarves and modest clothing, reflect Iran's cultural and legal expectations. Financial transactions in Iran must be done in cash due to international sanctions. Preparing with sufficient US dollars or euros for exchange is essential for a hassle-free visit. You may be surprised by the warm hospitality you receive from Iranian people. The welcoming nature of Iranian people often surprises American visitors, countering preconceived notions with overwhelming hospitality, showcasing a cultural openness contrary to political tensions. 3. Syria. Syria, boasting a rich history and cultural heritage, is once again welcoming tourists. This marks a significant shift after a period when obtaining a tourist visa was impossible. Now, US citizens have a new avenue for exploration and cultural exchange in the Middle East. The process to acquire a Syrian tourist visa is relatively simple. First, there's an ID check and security clearance. Then, you book a tour with an authorized travel agency. Finally, you receive your visa upon arrival. This streamlined system unlocks Syria's breathtaking landscapes and architectural wonders, offering a unique chance to delve into the heart of the region's history. Independent travel in Syria is currently not permitted. However, authorized travel companies offer various group and private tours catering to different interests. Group tours come in two flavors: classic tours with Western guides and budget tours led by local guides. For a more personalized experience, private tours can be customized, with itineraries ranging from 3 to 8 days. The situation for US citizens considering travel to Syria presents a stark contrast. The US government strongly advises against any travel to Syria due to safety concerns, due to terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, armed conflict, and risk of unjust detention. If you're still interested in traveling to Syria, to plan your Syrian adventure, submit your visa documents at least 3 to 4 weeks before your tour's start date. Flight bookings can be made after your security clearance is confirmed. 2. Venezuela. The relationship between the United States and Venezuela is marred by deep political and economic rifts. U.S. sanctions aimed at pressuring Venezuela's government have led to severe economic hardships, affecting the daily lives of its citizens. These measures, while targeting the government, have inadvertently fueled resentment among some Venezuelans towards Americans, seen as representing these punitive policies. This sentiment, coupled with Venezuela's complex socio-political landscape, can create a challenging environment for U.S. citizens visiting or residing in the country. Safety concerns, stemming from crime and the potential for detainment, further exacerbate the sense of unwelcomeness. The lack of diplomatic relations means limited consular support for Americans, making them feel more vulnerable in navigating Venezuela's challenging terrain. However, it's crucial to acknowledge the rich tapestry of Venezuelan culture and the inherent warmth of its people. Despite the geopolitical tensions, many Venezuelans separate their feelings about government policies from their interactions with individuals, often showing hospitality and friendliness towards foreign visitors. Yet, the backdrop of Venezuela's economic struggles and political instability cannot be ignored. These issues have led to significant emigration, transforming communities and leaving a mark on the country's demographic and cultural landscape. For U.S. citizens, understanding this context is essential for navigating their presence in Venezuela sensitively and respectfully. In conclusion, while geopolitical and economic tensions have strained the relationship between the U.S. and Venezuela, the heart and soul of the country, its people and culture, remain vibrant and welcoming. The challenge for Americans lies in navigating the complex social and political environment, understanding the impact of U.S. policies on ordinary Venezuelans, and approaching interactions with empathy and respect. 1. North Korea. Taking a trip from the U.S. to North Korea? It's not as simple as booking a flight. Strained relations between the two countries for decades make travel difficult and potentially dangerous. The Korean War left a deep scar, fostering mistrust that hinders tourism. North Korea's nuclear program adds another layer of tension, leading to sanctions and heightened security concerns. The North Korean government, known for tight control, fears American influence and potential unrest, making them restrict tourist movement and monitor them closely. Obtaining a visa is a challenge, often requiring a government-approved tour. Even then, tourists face limitations. They can't wander freely and risk detention for alleged offenses, which the regime sometimes uses as a bargaining chip. The U.S. government, due to safety concerns, also restricts travel with some rare exceptions. North Korea further restricts its own citizens. Leaving the country without permission is nearly impossible, and those fortunate enough to travel abroad face close monitoring and ideological training upon return. Limited access to foreign media and the internet further restricts cultural exchange between the two nations. Considering a trip to North Korea? Remember, the U.S. government strongly advises against it due to the high risk of arrest and long-term detention. Special permission might be granted for essential travel in rare cases, but for the average tourist, a North Korean vacation is simply not in the cards. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, hit that like button and subscribe for more cool insights.